Hello, Namaste, and welcome to the session number 12 of Samkhya 101. This is our last but one session. Next week, we will conclude the course Samkhya 101, which is giving you an overall introduction to Samkhya, authored by Kapil. Today, we are going to look at the summary of the chapter 5th. This is the title slide. Chapter 5th is Kapil's attempt to remove all kinds of misunderstandings which are which must have been prevalent at that time, and that must be removed for a thorough understanding of Kapil's Sankhya principles. Let me give you a quick review what we have done in previous 4 chapters. His structure of the book is: the first chapter lays down the entire Sankhya principles. Purusha and Prakriti, these are the two basic elements. Consciousness and Prakriti gives rise to all the things in the universe that are not conscious. And then the objective of his book is to get rid of all kinds of pain and suffering, what is called liberation. And for that to happen, one must acquire the discriminatory understanding in an experiential manner, these two elements, namely Purush and Prakriti. And the method is through a regular practice of meditation, so that your buddhi, what Patanjali calls chitta in Yoga Darshanam, the buddhi is void of any modifications. It is absolutely standstill. And that leads to self-realization. Otherwise, we are always watching our buddhi, which goes through modifications every moment. So when buddhi is absolutely stagnant, still and blank, then I am not picking up any information from buddhi. And then I know my own self, my true consciousness, which is what is called Vivek Khyati. I have gained the Vivek. Vivek is wisdom, discriminatory knowledge, that I am different from my buddhi, but not based on my studies and what I have heard from others. I have experientially seen it. So that is what is the objective of Sankhya. And then he goes into detail what is Purush and what is Prakriti, how they come together, and how does all this infinite things in the universe come into existence. Just to give you a quick overview of what is covered in his later chapters, I like to show you that schematic diagram of 25 entities, which one must understand and learn, get to know them, then only one can attain liberation. So we briefly looked at Purush and Prakriti. And in chapter 2, he goes through. So let me recap this diagram first. So all that is in the universe is these individual souls that is called Purush, and Prakriti is the basic matter in its primary state. When its three strands, what is called Sato Guna, Rajo Guna, and Tamo Guna, they are in equilibrium. Then very first principle formed out of Prakriti is called Mahat. That's what gives rise to, that's what functions for an individual human being as Buddhi. This is what is called a Chitta by Patanjali. So it has three names, so to say, Mahat, Buddhi, and Chitta. Mahat is a structural name because Mahat can give rise to Chitti or in an individual human being and other principles we'll see later, or it can give rise to all this universe, all these objects that we have. So Buddhi and Chit, these are two names. Chit is, as I like to explain, to my thumb in the fist. So my thumb is me, the soul, and the fist, the palm, is my overall mind domain. The palm itself is called Chitta because that is what is functioning as a screen which I am watching every moment. And when an image, the signals are coming through five senses: sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch. Say I am watching a chair. When this image of the chair appears on my mind screen, my chit, that very moment it is functioning as chitta. But soon, next moment, I conclude that this image is that of a chair and it is not a desk, it is not a table. So once I conclude that this object is a chair and is not a table or something, then it is functioning as buddhi. So chitta is the very first instrument, but chitta is capable of not just giving me the images of the objects, five-dimensional image, sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch. But that also helps me conclude what the particular object is. And when I conclude something, this is called buddhi. So when chitta is functioning as a decision making, when I decide and conclude, the same instrument chitta is called as buddhi. So it is a philosophical terminology why Patanjali called it chitta and why Kapil calls it as buddhi. Now out of this, next derivative is called ahankar, which for an individual human being is functioning as if my memory. It is my storage device. That is where I store all kinds of past knowledge, all my repeated practices, my signatures, and so many things. Now there is a green root, the upper arm, which is what the objects are made of. Out of ahankar, five subtle elements are made called tanmatra, and out of them five gross elements. So the entire universe is made of these five gross elements. And from ahankar, if we follow the red color, there are three what is called indriyas, our instruments. The first is manas and five sense organs: sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch, and five motor organs. So five sense organ Janindri help me acquire the knowledge from the outside world, and five motor organs Karmendriya, I can act upon the outside world. This is how the whole universe is made of. So in the chapter 2, he has described the lower arm. As I said, first chapter is overall description of his family, his philosophy, and the whole, this entire diagram. He lays down his blueprint, so to say. In chapter 2, he is talking about matter and this red color, the lower arm, the instrument that we are equipped with. And our instruments are capable of getting to know the universe we live in. So the upper arm is covered in the third chapter, and that is where he goes in the concept of Ishwar, because Ishwar is making the universe out of these five gross elements. And even these transformations from Prakriti, all this onwards, Ishwar is the creator, is the doer, is the agent behind all these transformations and action. So, chapter 1 is the whole diagram and all the objectives of our life, all the Sankhya principles. Chapter 2 is about the Prakriti in particular and the lower arm of this schematic diagram, the red color. Chapter 3 is the upper part, the green color. This is how he has structured his book. And in chapter 4 that we covered last time, he has covered all kinds of stories and parables to explain all these Sankhya principles. That was chapter 4. Today we are coming to chapter 5, where we will look at the next part, where all these, all the other ideas which are contrary to Sankhya principles, he has discussed and has refuted them. He has explained why they are not acceptable, why they are not tenable. So this is to strengthen Sankhya principles that he is rejecting all the other misunderstandings that must have been prevalent at that time. So let's go back to this is from one of the previous slide. I come back to the PowerPoint file of the fifth chapter. Okay. So we have about 9 or 10 slides here. Let's go through them. What all contrary ideas might have been prevalent at that time, and they are significantly important even in the modern times. We should look at them and see how Kapil is arguing that they cannot be valid. And only Sankhya principles are the correct description of the universe and the objectives of the human life. The very first thing he takes up is karma, because generally people think we can gain liberation by performing positive karma. So he is saying, yes, noble karma are desirable. We must, because as a human being, we are going to perform karma. We are going to lead an active life, but we should not do anything at the expense of others. We should not hurt others, harm others for our personal gains. So as we raise the stature of our karma, that is called noble karma. And we know every karma brings its reward. That's law of karma. That is well understood. Even a common man knows it. If he does, if he acts in a particular manner, there will be certain consequences. Certain consequences come immediately, but sometimes certain karma brings their consequences much later. And it may even come in the next life, much later. So all those possibilities are there. And here comes a possibility karma which for benefit of others, like actions, etc., can to me. Saying karma are desirable. Let's recognize we cannot live without karma. Perform noble karma, karma, but they themselves will not bring liberation. We started with dukkha, atyant purusharth. So karma can be a good purusharth, but it cannot be atyant purusharth. Is atyant purusharth, which is what will get us away from in an absolute sense after acquisition of that vivek, and not that noble karma, high order karma will bring us liberation. Now, since karma brings rewards, then what he's saying is, do they come automatic? Is it automated, or that you do certain acts and certain rewards come? Then he is arguing, no, it does not happen automatically. According to the Vedas, the infinite soul, Purush, Ishwar, he brings the rewards, and he gives an analogy like a king does it in his kingdom. A king is dispensing justice with the help of his ministers and all other forces. He is dispensing justice. So there is a law of land everywhere. So to give an example of law of karma, he cites the law of land where the justice is dispensed with by a human being known as the king. This is how the universe is functioning. But then somebody has another misunderstanding that the king is an incomplete person, is not Purnakam, he is Apurnakam. He is not an absolute human being. He also has certain desires, and his knowledge can also be deficient. Then, because Kapil gave an example of Ishwar performing as a king, of course, analogies are always part two. They are not one to one, never. But then the student somehow misunderstands it that could Ishwar also be an Apurnakam, an incomplete human being? Answer is no. His authority is there because Ishwar is presiding over Prakriti. Prakriti is word of consciousness. So of course it doesn't have the knowledge, it doesn't have the ability. It is just the raw matter. And through this raw matter, we get to know all the objects, in particular via our buddhi. And at our buddhi only we get the fruits of our rewards in terms of joy and pain, sukh and dukh. That is also brought to my soul at the point of my buddhi, which is made of matter. So the matter is involved, but matter doesn't act by itself. It is matter is the means, and it is following the dictates of Ishwar. So yes, Ishwar is giving us the reward via the Prakriti, the matter, but the Prakriti is performing in a particular manner on the commands of Ishwar. Now the question is asked, if he is the presiding entity and he is functioning via Prakriti, then like we individuals are connected to Prakriti via Buddhi. And then we have all kinds of desires and we have ignorance and so on and so forth. So like we are touched by rag and avidya. This is our desires or some sort of, what should I say, in the attachment. I have translated in the past rag as attachment, avidya is ignorance, lack of knowledge. So we are connected to the matter via buddhi and we are inflicted with attachment and ignorance. Could it be that Ishvara is also inflicted with rag and avidya? Then that is denied. No, Ishvara is untouched by rag or avidya. In total sense, asanga. Asang means he is not touched by anything. Like I drive a car, but I don't become an integral part of car. I have my own status. Car is an independent entity and I am an independent entity. Though I am presiding over my automobile when I take the command and drive it the way I please. But then I can come out of the car and disconnect from it also. And when I want, I use it as an instrument. Just an example, in the same manner, Ishwar has an authority over Prakriti to manage the entire universe, the non-conscious, unconscious part of the universe, as well as the human beings and animals and birds. In particular, our connectivity to the matter through our buddhi and other instruments, indriyas, and what was the headline, the lower arm of the schematic diagram. And he makes all the objects of the universe following the green line, the upper arm. So he has discussed the karma, law of karma that brings us rewards of joy and pain. But law of karma is not automated. There is a lawmaker, namely Ishwar, and to dispense justice, he uses and even to create the universe, he uses matter as the raw material. But in this process, he stays asang. He is not. He doesn't get connected by the way we get connected to the matter. So he is the attributes of matter stick with it, and his own attributes are there. He is finally the presiding entity who has full authority over matter, and he continues to retain his own natural characteristics. So, chapter 3 had said he is Sarvit Sarvakarta. He is all knowing and all doing, omniscient and omnipotent, and this is what is proven, well proven in Sankhya. Idisha Ishwar Siddhi Siddha. We have seen these two statements. Now further he is saying the law of karma is not arbitrary, that is why it is law. So joy and pain, there is no arbitrariness in dispensing rewards for action. So joy, sukh, pain is dukh, they correspond to certain quality of karma. Positive karma is called dharma. It is my instinctive, my natural, inherent positive actions is my dharma. So there is a human dharma, right conduct. If I follow that, then I am likely to be rewarded with sukha, joy. If I go against the dharma, I will be rewarded with dukkha and pain. But how do we know this correspondence? How do we know it? Because we do see in the world even certain anomalies. We see in the world that somebody is a crooked man, is harming others, cheating others, and is enjoying his life. So he is doing adharma and he enjoys his life. So a lot of doubt arises in a common man's mind that is this correspondence really truly like this? Kapil is emphasizing it is truly like this. Of course, these kind of actions have their gestation period. So sometimes the common man has this doubt that good work, good actions will bring sukh or not, and when will they bring sukh? So he has all these doubts. So Kapil is clarifying, no, there is one-to-one correspondence. But then the question is put forth: how do you know this correspondence is definitely there? There has to be an evidence. So he says, we have evidence from the Vedas. This is so-called Shabda Pramana. So you will remember in the first chapter, he has also described how to ascertain the truth. So by way of evidences, Pramana. And then he said there were three Pramana. Pratyaksh is direct perception, Anuman, namely inference, and Shabda Pramana, what is called testimony. So I have given you examples like raining. I can see it from my window, it is raining, and I can see, if I am in the field, I can see there are clouds up in the sky causing rain. So I see the rain, that is a fact, and I say it is caused by the clouds up in the sky. Because I see, I have direct perception of this in many, many repeated occasions. So today, that is direct perception. Today I am inside my home. I see from window it is raining, but I cannot see my clouds. Yet I make an inference there must be clouds up in the sky. So this is the knowledge about clouds in the sky is not coming from direct perception, but is coming from inference, which is basically strengthened by direct perception. Inference is based on direct perception. Anuman is based on pratyaksha. Now he's saying, and then the third possibility was, I am working in my basement and a friend of mine walks in my home. Then he says, it is raining outside. And then I make an inference. If it is raining, which I trust him because he is my friend, and there is no reason for me to doubt him. So that is Shabda Pramana, the fact that it is raining. He doesn't tell me that he saw clouds up in the sky, but now based on his testimony and based on the inference, I conclude there must be clouds up in the sky. So, these are three ways how we ascertain truth. Now here, Kapil himself is saying this correspondence between Sukha and Dukha on one side and Dharma and Adharma on the other side. This is an effect, and these are the causes. So this is one-to-one correspondence. Dharma is causing joy, pain, sukha, and adharma is causing dukha and pain. Now this relationship, how do you know it? Kapil says we know it by Shabda Pramana, testimony in the Vedas. And also to some extent we see it in the world, inference. We see it in the world that, if somebody does something wrong, something harmful, he cuts his finger with a knife, which is a senseless act that will cause pain to him. Certain events we see in the day-to-day life that was adharm caused him pain instantaneously, then and there. If you put your finger in flame, you will burn yourself and that will be painful. If you eat something unhealthy substance, that will deteriorate your health and you will be in painful situation. So certain of these things we see in the world. So it is not only the testimony, but influence is also there. But then Kapil accepts that there is no direct perception. How can we know this law of karma is working perfectly? We cannot know it by direct perception, pratyaksh. We know it only by anuman and shabdapama. So that he has stated here. So the law of karma, which is dispensed with by Ishwar, and there is a full-fledged mechanism, is any human being has to admit it. I don't know that law of karma by pratyaksh pramar, by direct. I just think it is there. I make an inference, or I read it in the Vedas. We cannot say more than that. So Kapil is stating the situation as it is. Now he has introduced the term dharma and adharma, the righteous act and unrighteous act. They are wherever there is a duality that is taking birth in my mind, in my buddhi. So that's what he is. This is characteristics of my mind and not of Purush. Purush is pure consciousness. Purush is using the instrument of buddhi, which is a discriminative faculty, to conclude this is right or wrong, good or bad, dharma or adharma, papa or punya. All this is concluded by an individual human being at his desktop, at his buddhi. Purush is, is not part of that. He is the presiding entity of the instrument, but it is not that he is himself of his own going in the direction of dharma and adharma. It is like you are sitting here in your home. You don't go anywhere unless you sit in the car. So you went to place A or B only if you are driving your car. Otherwise, you are not. You are in your home, so to say. In the same manner, the question of my conducting according to the righteousness or not in accordance with the righteousness arises only when I am connected to my buddhi. Otherwise, it is not a relevant question. Now he is discussing this inference thing. Inference is based on certain features. There is a lot of detailed description which I am avoiding because I am basically just summarizing fifth chapter. So he discusses fire and smoke, like I gave you the clouds and the rain. So he says, fire, if there is smoke, I can conclude there is fire. But then there is certain time there is a fire without smoke as well. So then he discusses a concept of what is called vyapti. Only if there is a smoke, I can definitely conclude there is a fire. If there is no smoke, I cannot conclude there is a fire. And still fire may be there. But if there is a smoke, then there is definitely the fire exists. So he takes up all these possibilities. And there is another example of the leaves and tree. If you are from a distance, you see, or you are seeing from a corner, you see a bunch of leaves in a particular manner, you conclude there is a tree there. These leaves belong to a tree. But then there is a possibility leaves are lying on the ground. And when you see them, you don't conclude there is a tree also there. So leaves themselves don't tell you that Tea is always there, only in a particular manner. Similarly, fire is concluded by smoke, but there can be fire even without smoke, like there can be leaves even without tea. So all these detailed discussions takes place because he is saying that sukh and dukh, joy and pain corresponds to dharma and adharma. And this knowledge is coming from testimony as well as inference. So inference is discussed in detail. Now next slide is talking about testimony, which is Shabda Praman, because the Vedas say it. So in this philosophy, the Vedas are treated as the final authority in ascertaining the truth. So now he's discussing what is a Shabda and Arth, word and meaning. So here he's saying, of course, we all know, pick up a knowledge, we pick up a language. Language consists of words and there is a construction. Certain words are brought together to form a sentence, and the speaker speaks out a sentence, and one who is hearing absorbs the meaning contained in the sentence, which is nothing but collection of words. So he is discussing word and meaning. So of course, as a child, I pick up this what is called my mother tongue, a language. So he is describing threefold learning. We pick up a this relationship between word and meaning is picked up in threefold manner. First is teaching. He gives three examples. So I am cow. This is a cow. So say father and child. Let's look at this possibility. A small child is walking with his father, and the child is asking, "What is this?" Then the father says, "This is a cow." So the child has learned that the word cow means that kind of a particular animal with four legs, two horns, and this and that. And there is another way he learns it, so called inference, behavior. After teaching, it is behavior. The child is sitting here, and two adults are there. One adult tells the another adult, being the cow. The child is listening, and then the other adult brings a cow. So the child was not familiar with the word cow, but he knows the word bing, and he has heard person A saying bing the cow, and then person B brought an animal. Now the child can correlate that that particular animal is called the cow. So he has seen how two adults are conducting their business, their communication, etc. So first fold was he got an direct knowledge from his father or teacher. Second method was he saw how two people are communicating and behaving. And then he has, this is a kind of extrapolation, inference about the key word. Somebody told the child, if you go out in the field, you will see a brown cow is grazing in the field. So the child goes out of his house and sees in the field an animal is grazing. And then he concludes, because he knows the word brown, field, and all this, so he realized this is the animal that is called cow, because there is no other animal in the field. So he has been able to learn that the word is cow, the meaning is the particular animal with four legs, one tail, two horns, and so on and so forth. So that word and meaning. The cow and the meaning is that particular animal. He is able to get it in this threefold manner. Diet from teacher, behavior of two people, adults, and somebody said something where one word was new to him, but then all other words were very explainable, and he could correlate that sentence with the situation. It is like filling in the gap. And then he realized, I didn't know what cow is, and somebody told me that cow is grazing in the field. So I see an animal grazing the field, and this particular animal is the cow. So Kapil is saying this is how we learn from words. Now he's saying same is true with the Vedas. So Vedas also consists of collection of words. Vedas are treated as a revealed word. So as far as the word is concerned, they are revealed. So it is what Kapil is trying to say is the very first human being who appeared on the earth got twofold understanding that this is the word and this is how, this is what it means, the word and this meaning. Let me read the whole sentence. There are too many things in this bullet point. Same is true with the Vedas, though word and meaning are not amenable to senses. These are the objects like the inner diagrams of 25 entities. They are not amenable to our senses, our mind itself. Panchtanmatra, they are not amenable to our senses. So, how do we know them? So, he's saying Vedas teach us about that. And then again, there is a question is asked. How does somebody know that these words in the Vedas have these meanings? So he's saying the primitive Rishi had twofold awareness, was aware of word and phonetics, means the word is there, it is revealed to him, and by way of his inner inspiration, he is able to recite that word. So there are two things now. The word cow, COW, cow. Now this is a written word, but a child doesn't know how to pronounce it, how to speak out. So what Kapil is saying, same is true with the Vedas. The words and how they are to be recited, this together came to that primitive person who is called a rishi by way of his inner inspiration. And then, not only that, he knew how to, this is called Ucharan, Shabd and Ucharan. He is reciting that word and he also knew the word and the meaning. If he didn't know the meaning, it is senseless. So that's how the knowledge came to the human beings at the very beginning of the creation. So, we are discussing the testimony, Shabda Praman, from the previous slide. So this is more talking about the what is called Lokik Bhasha, the worldly language, first bullet point. Then this is talking about the Vedic language, what is in the Vedas. Now Vedas are talking about two kinds of objects, one that are not amenable to our senses and also the worldly objects. So human beings gain this knowledge of both the subtle objects like what Kapil is talking about, buddhi, ahankar, manas and so on, so and also the worldly objects. And then he's saying something, how the words of the Vedas were revealed to the very first generation of human being. They knew how to recite it, the phonetics of the words, as well as they knew the meanings of the word. Now a cause and effect, his question is being asked. The Vedas are an effect. They were caused. There is a cause of an effect. And like in this universe, all these objects are an effect. They are made of Prakriti, matter, and thereby they are non-eternal. They take birth and then they decay and die away. So Vedas being an effect, they cannot be eternal. They are being an effect, Vedas are non-eternal. But they are. Now this is after the word but, this is Kapil's position. They are an effect due to the souls. They are not an effect due to the souls. We have not created, not the human beings have created. All other objects that we make out of the gross elements are an effect and are non-eternal. So thus, yes, the rishis recited them first, but rishis are not quite the maker of it. They are not the creator of the Vedas. They were inspired to recite it. So the Vedas are not an effect because they were not created by the human souls. They are, and hence they are eternal. So what is being said is, though human beings recited it, it is not an effect like human beings give rise to all other worldly effects, which are non-eternal. It is Vedas are not like that, and hence they are eternal. Then somebody ages a question, but universe is also eternal in the sense, in the sense, what is called as the universe comes into existence and then dies out, dissolved, and then again comes into existence. So now, could be Vedas are also like that. But then he is saying, no, it is not that. Vedas are truly eternal, whereas universe is not totally eternal because it is like seed and kernel, bija ankur. Like seed gives rise to the tree, a plant and tree, and that has fruits that give rise to seeds again. This is a cyclic nature, but we know it that neither the seeds nor the tree is eternal. None of them is eternal. But Vedas are not in this category. Vedas are eternal in their own right. So, I hope you have in mind the flow of his arguments. It started with karma, then karma brings its rewards. How do we know it? This correspondence, that positive karma being, we know it only via Shabd and Anuman Pramana. But we cannot know it via the Pratyaksh Pramana, the direct perception. So he has an objective to go into detail of Shabd Pramana, that Shabd Pramana is the authority in this case. So that is what this discussion is about. So he has now proved the validity of the Vedas, and this is what is the basis for all the Samkhya principles. including law of karma. Now he goes into specifics of Prakriti and Purush. Vedas bear testimony, and accordingly, Prakriti is the material cause. Because Prakriti is also unusual, avyakta. Even when we have Vivek Khyati, we can know the Buddhi, but not the Prakriti. So we rely on the Vedas that yes, Prakriti is the material cause. Now there is a misunderstanding that could it be non existent? It is just a fancy idea. Then the example is given by a doubtful person that yes, like in darkness, a rope is treated as a snake. So could that be that there is no Prakriti? Because actually there is no snake. It is truly speaking, it is just rope. But there is a illusion, and under the influence of the illusion, which may be due to darkness, the person thinks it is a snake. So could it be there is no Prakriti and we just have an illusion of this world, the material world? The entire world is an illusion. Kapil denies that. Even in the instance of rope and snake, it is the influence of illusion that a misunderstood as a rope is being misunderstood as a snake. But the fact is that rope and snake both truly exist in the world. Both exist in the world. Maybe at that point it is just a rope, but snake does exist in the world. And rope also does exist in the world. So he is removing the possibility that the universe as such is an illusion. He goes further. There are other doubts that Purush, could it be just one? Then he says, no, it is multiplicity, multiple. Like my soul is different from yours and different from somebody else's. And we don't quite get united with Prakriti. We are also Asanga. That way we are not going through transformations. Transformations are that of Prakriti, to which we are connected due to our Vivek. What is our inherent characteristics? Having brought Ishwa into context, Purush and Prakriti, he is kind of summarizing all these entities have certain inherent characteristics, what is called Swarup. What is that of Ishwa is Sat, existent, Chit is consciousness, and Ananda, blissfulness. So Ishwa is inherently Satchidananda. The Purush, the individual souls, we are eternally existent and our consciousness. We have discussed in detail, this is not my attribute. This is what I am. This is my Swarup. And Prakriti is merely ever existent. It is eternally existent, but goes through all kinds of transformation. Now he is discussing liberation. Liberation is not blissfulness. It is not that a soul will become Ishwar. It is merely absence of pain. It is when I get connected to Prakriti, then I go through joy and pain. So what is liberation is disconnection from Prakriti. Then this Purush will have its own inherent characteristics, namely existent and consciousness, but void of any pain. There will not be any pain. That is what is the nature of liberation. Now comes Purush and Prakriti have been discussed. Now he is discussing the mind, whether First, his statement it is localized. It is not that my mind is throughout my body domain. It is a local principle, local particle. And of course, it is being made of matter. It is not nishki, it is sakhi. It is always active. And that is what is dynamism. It is aggregate in the sense it is buddhi and ahankar all put together. So it is not just, it is a composed thing. It is not just one particle, it is an aggregate. It is a non-eternal, of course, because it is different from Purush and Prakriti both. It is neither Purush because it is void of consciousness, nor it is Prakriti because it is transforming always. It goes through transformation. Again, he describes Purush is basically going through bhog. He's experiencing all the experiences, whereas the Prakriti is to be experienced. Both are eternal and homogeneous. So, in the pure form, Purush is what Purush is, eternal, and Prakriti is non transformational, is homogeneous and eternal. Having described Purush and Prakriti, he goes at length on liberation. Liberation is denying, it is not blissfulness, like we don't become Ishwar. Not absence of Prakriti's three strands. It is not that I am void of Satogun, Rajogun, Tamogun. I am basically void of pain, not a particular space or location. It is not that I have reached certain location and that is liberation. It is not subduing of desires, nor being non-transient. It is not that I am void of any rag or attachment, nor being non-transient as if I am just what I am, not going through changes with time. It is neither is it annihilation. It is not that whole thing has vanished. It is not acquiring a particular location or tool or means of position, so to say, and not merging in Ishwar, not acquiring extraordinary powers, vibhuti, or position, like you become the king of a kingdom. It is nothing like that. Now, what is actually it is? Then he says, Samadhi Sushupti Moksheshu Brahmarupta. So, an individual soul goes through these three possibilities: Samadhi, deep in meditation, Sushupti, deep sleep, and liberation, Moksheshu. Then he has an affinity to Brahma, Paramatma, but he is not becoming Brahma. And that specifically is absence of pain. Then he says, how is moksha, how is liberation different from samadhi and sushupti? In these two states, the seeds of avivek are present. Like we go to deep sleep, but when we come out of it, we are same what we were. Same thing in samadhi, certain seeds of avivek are all there. When all of them are get burned, then I become Jivan Mukta. And after some time, I will obtain liberation. So this is how these two states are different from moksha, where seeds of avivek are present, but they are not in the third one. Now he comes back to karma, where he started with. It is seemingly, even animals do karma, even machines do karma, seemingly. So he is clarifying it. They is only feasible in particular species. Only particular living beings perform karma. So there is somebody who has karma deha. This is the enlightened souls, human beings, who have acquired vivek. Now as a jivan mukt, they are still in this body. They are seemingly doing certain karma, but those karma don't bring any reward anymore. They are just doing karma for necessary survival. Those karma don't give rise to any reward. Now there are animals and birds who just experience joy and pain. They don't do any karma. That is called upabhoga deha. They means body, bhog is experience, karma is action that you know it. Now there are certain species, namely the human beings, ubhaya deha, ubhaya means both. They perform karma as well as they have to experience the bhog also. Both action and experience. That is, he is classifying it. There are three kinds of species. Human beings do karma as well as bhog. Animals and birds and insects and all other millions, billions of species, they are just bhog yoni. They just go through the experiences. And then there are certain enlightened human beings, Jivan Mukt. They just perform certain karma, but they don't go through any bhog. Then the question is raised about plants and species. Then he says they are sthavar, anusayi. There is a soul residing in it, but it is as if in permanently in sleep. They do neither karma nor bhog, as if they are in deep sleep. They don't do any action, and they are void of any organs in the eyes. He concludes all this. Of course, he started in a particular manner, but comes back and stresses the fact that five gross elements are void of consciousness. So, like even modern scientists are struggling to explain the world, universe, how it came into being, how does it function, but they hesitate to say that there is a non-physical soul, push. And then they are confronted with the question, what is this consciousness? Where does it come from? And they find it difficult to explain. This is where Kapil's philosophy is very important, forcefully saying there is a matter which is void of consciousness, including its five gross elements are, and there is a push that is consciousness, inherently conscious, that is its swarup. Sat and Chit is its swarup. Thank you for your attention. We will meet again for the next session number 13th and conclude this course with the last chapter 6th of Patanjali Kapil's Samkhya. See you next week.